again, if a game starts at 7:30 Pacific on a Saturday night, it will go to a shootout. This was proven again tonight, to which I'm like, yep, of course, because that way, instead of starting the preview about 15 minutes ago, I'm starting it now. Or review, I should say. And of course, that'll back up the preview, it'll back up the power rankings. And so I apologize to everybody who's not in Europe. To Europe, they're like, hey, great, Shannon's night's been backed up again. 6 more Saturdays, and then that's it. And so, yeah, let's just jump into this with the most bizarre story of the night. I've already done the video on what happened and how Ayers comes in and becomes a folk hero. I did spell Ayers wrong initially. I did look on Twitter and correct it. Now, there was an early jump for the Canes in this game. They get a power play, and then Reimer gets shaken up. So he saves one shot. It looked like he was going to stay in the game, but he gets shaken up. He does leave with what they call the lower body injury and would not return. There were some close calls on a power play for the Canes. The shots were 9-0 in favor of Carolina at 5 minutes. So Toronto came out flat. And this is the storyline tonight. Again, for Toronto desperate for a playoff spot, the funny thing is, tonight is another example of how nobody wants third place in the division. So Buffalo, Montreal, have at it. Nobody seems to want it. Svechnikov then drilled Barrie, which knocked him out of the game. Not for good, but it drilled him out of the game. There was some debate I saw about whether or not hits were clean or dirty. The Svechnikov one, borderline. The Leafs then get another power play. They don't score on that. However, Kerfoot would score from Muzzin and Kapanen in the last minute. So at 19 minutes and 24 seconds, he makes it 1-0 Toronto in a period where they had been outplayed pretty badly for large portions of it by Carolina. So it felt like that was a key thing. Second period, Barrie did return to start the second period. When he came back, Svechnikov actually made a point of welcoming him back to the game. Obviously, didn't want to see him injured and out. And it also sent the whole panel into hysterics. Not hysterics, but clearly going, our trade deadline, because they're waiting for Barrie to get traded. So if he gets hurt, there goes the Toronto crowd on Monday. First minute, there was a chance for the Leafs. Mrazek was pretty good since coming in. This is right about where they announced a trade Toronto made with Nashville. I didn't do a video on it because it's Ben Harper for Mikko. Yeah, see, now I've got Sorella stuck in my head. Salamaki. This was Mika Salamaki. And at this point, Dubas is just like, hey, so, yeah, Toronto fans want me to get a defenseman. I just think it'd be great if I traded a defenseman for a forward. That seems to be what's going on. And it's an AHL deal, so it's not earth-shattering. Anderson then denied Foegele. Mrazek stopped Kapanen. And it was a pretty good back-and-forth game. Then Wallmark scores from Martinook at 5 minutes and 46 seconds. The shots are 9-3 Carolina at 8 minutes. So Toronto, who had come out of the first period, probably feeling pretty lucky about being up, they come out flat again in the second period. The Canes get a power play, and they score. Niederreiter from Netchus and Gardner at 9 minutes and 53 seconds. It's 2-1. Toronto needs to respond, and they respond by allowing another goal. Foegele from Edmondson and Stahl at 10:49. This is right about where Clifford drills Mrazek. Now, I'm going to say straight out, they gave him a penalty on the play. I agreed with the penalty. The announcers seemed to think it was just a collision. I would have been okay with it being a collision other than the arm going up into the mask. So, and you can say Clifford was protecting himself, but the other statement was he was just looking at the puck. He didn't see Mrazek coming. Either way, I don't think it's a suspension. I don't think it was that dirty. And I'm only mentioning it because it does have an effect on the rest of the game. So Clifford drilled Mrazek, and it's emergency goalie time. And it's a power play for Carolina, and there was some... The app got confused as to whether it was a 2-minute or a 5-minute. They went to commercial, and it showed a 5-minute on the app, and I'm like, wait a minute. Did they give him a major? Because, again, I didn't think it was worth a major. But I could understand a penalty for charging, which made some sense there. And David Ayers is in the crease for the Canes. And what was weird was, first off, he has a Marlies mask. Secondly, he's a Zamboni driver for the Marlies. Thirdly, he's a Zamboni driver. After the game was done, I actually had an exchange with Steve Dangle. I'll have to remember to mention that at the end because it was actually kind of funny. Probably not so much for Dangle, although I don't get the feeling that he takes it. Like, he takes it seriously, but I think he's able to laugh at this point because he's been a Leafs fan for a long time, much like I've been a Canuck fan for a long time, so you can kind of laugh about things that happen. The crowd cheered as Ayers came out and played it. So Ayers came out and played it, and then you get the feeling like, okay, now they're going to beat him up. However, they get a power play. On the power play, Aho scores from Teravainen and Svechnikov at 13-17. So with the emergency goalie in, Carolina scores first. That's not supposed to happen. Then Tavares scores from Barrie and Nylander at 13-36. And good on Ayers for after the game saying that goal was on him. He said he expected Tavares to not drag it along the ice. It was a shot along the ice, and he should have had it. So I thought it was great that here's a goaltender we haven't seen ever, 42 years of age, hasn't played a competitive game in a long time, and he's basically calling himself out in the post-game interview. Wow, what a refreshing change, right? From all of the standard, we got to get pucks deep. Well, we got to respond. Just all that same, got to play a full 60 minutes, blah, 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 blah. Engvall would then score from Barrie and Kapanen at 15 minutes and 10 seconds. And at this point, I started feeling really bad. I did, because I thought, this poor guy gets thrown into the net. Now it's 4-3. All the Leafs need to do is just throw it at the net. And then they get a power play. Did they throw it at the net? Not really. Now, there are reasons for this, but those become more apparent in the third period. Clifford had a fight with Edmondson before the end of the period, as Toronto gets more and more frustrated. So we go into the third period, and again, the thought process here is simple. You've got a guy in the net that is not an NHL level goaltender. He's your emergency goaltender. He's employed by Toronto, ironically, and you want to be able to have that comeback. So shoot from everywhere. But what Carolina did in that third period was they played the best team defense I have seen in a long time from Carolina. And if I'm Rod Brindamore running a practice, I'm asking these guys tomorrow, can you play like this every day? Because if you play like this every game, you play like this in front of Reimer and in front of Mrazek, we're going to win some games. Their save percentage is going to go up, and we're going to win some games, and we're going to end up in the playoffs. Foegele scores at 53 seconds. And that's where the crowd starts thinking, wait, what? No, what? So the emergency goalie story starts to really gain some steam. And I know from the comments on the video I did tonight on the emergency goalie, a lot of people tuned over to this game when an emergency goalie goes in to find out what happened. And I understand Scott Foster's quite the story and all this. Ayers played a lot more than Foster did. Muzzin had a giveaway that caused that Foegele goal. So Muzzin, who had a great game last game, not so great tonight. Netchus then scored at 3:44, and they showed Kyle Dubas leaving the press box area, like leaving his suite. Did he come back? Because I don't remember seeing him come back. Like at that, you could almost see him going, well, F it, and just up and out. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. That's it. I'm done. I'm not saying he quit, but I'm not saying he didn't either. We haven't heard. So every Canes pass seemed to be working, and I wrote this down because this is the problem with Toronto's game. And it happens, and it seems like it happens every other game, and Leaf fans get on them, and then they fix it, and then they break it again. There was no contesting passes by the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm talking like, if you're Foegele, you can put it through 3 Leafs to get it to Aho, and those Leaf sticks are not going to be interfering at all with the pass. I lost count of how many passes in that third period Toronto didn't intercept that they probably should have and would have in that 4-0 shutout over Pittsburgh. But tonight, it was the bad Leafs. And I don't know what to say. This was absolutely amazing. So I know people are going to come down on Anderson, but sheesh. I mean, what else can the guy do? So the Spezza line was playing late. Now, Sheldon Keefe, if you're looking for a message, that message was sent late in this game. They're down 6-3. He's throwing the third line on the ice. He's basically telling the star players, you guys can sit on the bench because you're not playing well enough, and I'm done with this. They weren't taking enough shots. And again, when you see a goaltender in there, who, if you get enough shots, it'll go in. And he got confident. Ayers got confident as this game went along. He allowed 2 goals on 3 shots in the second period, and in the third, he didn't allow anything. He faced 7 shots, but he didn't face 15. He didn't face 20. So Carolina had a pretty easy time at the other end of the ice, and then at their end, they swarmed the Leafs and made sure they had nothing. The compete level was not there for Toronto. It is so wildly inconsistent. You could see the disgust with both Dubas and Keefe by the end of this game. If the Leafs don't make a large deal based on this game and this result, I'd be very surprised. And I don't know what deal you make, but Kyle Dubas cannot look at this team coming out of a 6-3 loss like this and say they're good enough to not just get in the playoffs, but to win a round. Getting in the playoffs and getting swept in the first round is not success. They at least need to show they're dangerous if when they get there, because again, nobody seems to want third place in this division. Reimer saved one shot. He only faced one. Mrazek saved 14 out of 15. Ayers saves 8 out of 10. Anderson at the other end of the rink, he saved 43 out of 49. So he faced 49 shots. And the 3 stars are Ayers was star number 1, and Leaf fans congratulated him. The Canes swarmed him after the game. Howlett told him in between periods, hey man, just go out there. If you allow 10 goals, that's fine. We don't care. Just go out there and enjoy yourself. And when they left the ice and when they showed the Canes going to the locker room, there wasn't anybody from Carolina who wasn't laughing and smiling and happy and cheering that they won this game in Toronto with a third-string goaltender who wasn't a member of their team. I don't know. This is what movies are written about. So he's star number 1, Fogel's number 2, and Netchus is number 3. The shots tell the story. 17-11 in the first, 22-8 in the second, and 10-7 in the third. Every single period favored the Carolina Hurricanes, who were playing their second game in 2 nights on the road, and they looked like the fresh team, and Toronto looked like the one that had played last night. Final shots 49-26 in favor of Carolina. Yep. It's a long night for Toronto. Power plays 2 for 4 for Carolina, 0 for 4 for Toronto. When you get a power play against that third-string goaltender and you get no shots, I don't know how you come out of this game not embarrassed. Next up, Montreal in against Ottawa. This was a much more predictable game. This one followed a normal script. Carey Price, he's a pretty good goaltender again this week. And it depends from game to game with Price, but he seems to be more predictable than the Leafs. The effort is always there. First period, it starts early. Domi on the first shot from Byron at 1 minute and 13 seconds. And when Max Domi gets hot, he can get hot for a while. It's easy to forget right now that he went on a bit of a goal-scoring binge early in the year. Domi would get his second at 10:21, and the assist goes to Craig Anderson on that one. Anderson passed it right to him. So there won't be any overtime in this one because they didn't put Hogberg in net. Power play for the Habs. Price stopped Jean-Gabriel Pageau shorthanded. I don't know what Ottawa does shorthanded. I don't know what kind of practice they have with their shorthanded bits. Oh, I want to go back to the game. Steve Dangle, I did message him and I said, my subscribers are looking forward to your Leaf fan reaction video tomorrow. And he sent me back, they lost to a Zamboni driver. And there was a curse word in there as well. So you can guess, like, he's not happy. So yeah, there's that. So I'll throw that tidbit into this part of the video and we'll move along. But Steve, if you see this, I'm sorry. I got a chuckle out of it. I did. I thought it was entertaining. Just they lost to you can't live down losing to a Zamboni driver. You can't. Great story. You can't live it down. So the Habs get a power play shorthanded. Price stops Pageau. Shabbat then was out and he didn't appear to return to the game and it looked like it was an ankle. So he did come out and try it and then said nope, went back to the locker room. That's bad news for Ottawa, who of course are not in a playoff position anyways. So just shut him down. It's basically all they have to do. Second period, Gallagher was stopped in close. The shots were almost 2-1 in favor of the Habs. So this game was really never in doubt. Once it got to 2-0 especially. The Habs get a power play, and then Duclair had a shorthanded break denied. So, again, the Senators seem to have this absolute wonder when it comes to the ability to get shorthanded breaks. If they could do it 5-on-5 and with the power play, they would actually be a pretty good team. And I would think this should increase the value of some of these guys on the market, especially Pageau. 14 shorthanded goals for this team this year. Then there was a power play for the Sens. That didn't score. Then Byron scores from Kovalchuk at 17:58. So that's Kovalchuk's first point in 7 games. So it's 3-0 going into the third early on. Jean-Gabriel Pageau gets a really good chance. Price denies him. And Josh Norris looked pretty good for the Sens tonight. He'll probably stay up the rest of the year, I would think. He had 4 shots at that time when I wrote that down in the game. There was a power play for the Senators. Doesn't go anywhere. There's pressure for the Habs at 11 minutes. And one thing that was discussed with this game as well, Carl Alsner came up and played. Has he earned another shot on the blue line for Montreal? Because he played well. He'll never justify that contract. But has he earned the right to play some more? Price ends up with his 48th career shutout. 30 saves for that. Anderson saved 34 out of 37. Your 3 stars are Domi, Byron, and Price. So, yeah, the Senators get shut down. Shots were 15-8 for Ottawa or Montreal in the first, 14-12 Montreal in the second. In the third, Ottawa outshoots them 10-8. Final shots 37-30 in favor of Montreal. Both teams go for 2 on the power play, and that's just how it worked tonight for Ottawa. Next up, San Jose. The Sharks, they went in against the Rangers, and they made this a lot more competitive than I had expected. Although the Rangers playing on back-to-back nights, but boy howdy, are the Rangers suddenly in this. Like this is not a drill. The Rangers are in this, and they are bound and determined to get into the playoffs. And Shesterkin's bound and determined to set new records for the New York Rangers. While Lundqvist sits there and looks at the score clock and thinks, should I go somewhere else? And Carolina might be making that phone call. Power play for the Rangers in the first. That doesn't succeed. However, Jesper Fast would get his 10th from Panarin and Strome. So Fast has suddenly started getting some goals. That's at 9:35. The Sharks push for the equalizer, but Shesterkin stood tall, and there's no surprise with that. We can stop being surprised about Shesterkin being this good. Because the reality is, they had no business having a lead at all in this game, and so Thornton made sure it didn't last. He scores from Meyer and Ferraro at 17:55 in a period that was dominated by San Jose. The Rangers just allowing way too many shots and not getting enough, and that's a problem, but with Shesterkin in net, it gets overcome. Second period, power play for the Sharks, and then they get another, and then they ended up with a third. That would be the end of their power play, though. That's it for their power plays at that stage. Thornton would score on that third power play from Burns and LeBanc at 13:47. So that's Thornton with 2 goals on the night. And he came out today and said, if I have an opportunity to go play for a contender, I will consider it. So if he feels like he has a chance to win a cup ring somewhere, he will go. Cue the returning to Boston rumors, especially after what happened with Boston tonight. The Rangers get a power play. They don't score on it. However, Panarin would assist on a goal by Zibanejad at 17:27, so not long after that ended. Third period, pretty good back and forth action, pretty wide open period, and then Fast gets the leading goal from Trouba and Strome to make it 3-2 at 6:54, and wow. The Rangers then tried to add to the lead. Vlasic broke up a Zibanejad chance, pretty close on that one. And the Sharks then struggled to even pull their goaltender. They started trying to pull their goaltender with about 2 minutes left, and it wasn't until the last minute before they were able to actually pull him because the Rangers were utilizing puck side pressure so much. So they don't tie it. The Rangers win this one in regulation 3-2. San Jose continues down that path to missing the playoffs. Dell saves 30 out of 33. He played well, but Shesterkin saved 44 out of 46 to get first star again and to win his 9th out of 10 starts. If the Rangers make the playoffs, Shesterkin's going to be one of the 2 reasons why, Panarin being the other. Fast and Thornton are your second and third stars in this one. Power plays, 1 for 4 for San Jose, 0 for 2 for the Rangers. The shots were 22-3, San Jose in the first. 22-3. Second period, 16-10 Rangers. Third period, both teams had 14 shots. It's very wide open third period. Final shots, 46-33 as they put up 79 shots. Yeesh. But the Rangers come through with victory. All right, next up, Columbus. Columbus has decided that the overtime loss point is their friend. And they are now up to 14 of them. And we're going to have this discussion again. That the overtime loss point, the fact that with 14 overtime or shootout losses, it's the equivalent to the same amount of points you would get with 7 victories. It does look kind of ridiculous on the ledger. That being said, for the Nashville Predators, they get 2 points in a very, very tight race in the West. And they keep pace with some teams. They catch some teams. And Nashville, I really think, is going to make the playoffs. So first period early. First shot. Johansson from Blackwell and Ellis at 33 seconds. So not too bad. Not too shabby. The shots were 5-1 for the Predators 4 minutes in. Saros was sharp when he was tested. I thought Saros had a good game. Granlund then scores from Forsberg around the halfway mark. 10 minutes and 31 seconds. The Predators get a power play. That would be their only power play in the game. And it didn't score. So second period. Early. Jenner scores from Gerby and Matteau at 1 minute. Stefan Matteau, 2 points in his last 2 games. Who knew? And Gerby with a point. Nice to see. Robinson then gets a goal from Lilia and Gavrikov at 4 minutes and 50 seconds. That ties it up. And Columbus with the momentum. They keep that up. Bemstrom gets a power play goal at 17:21 from Nudavara and Savard. So Columbus with a lead. This has been unusual over the last couple of weeks, but here we go. They've got a lead. Doesn't last. Sissons would score from Forsberg about a minute and a half later. So at 18:57, that ties it up. We go to the third period. Saros denied Werenski, and the Columbus Blue Jackets get a power play in that third period. So at this point, this is where there's a lot of different games going on. And this game didn't feel like it was doing anything other than going to overtime, which it did. In overtime, this is the 21st overtime for Columbus. They've got 14 overtime loss points, so they've won 7, either in shootouts or overtime. Gerby got a really good chance, and Elvis denied Yossi. Merzlikins maybe lost in here is that he had a pretty good game. But we go to a shootout, and we end up going to round 8. It went on for a while. There were a couple of times where I had a Nashville logo up here ready for them to score, and they didn't. I'm like, oh, this is going to keep going. So Grimaldi eventually ends it in round 8, and Nashville wins it in a shootout 4-3. So Columbus, they continue to get points. It's something that they had going for them early in the season. It kept them from falling out of the race. It's keeping them from falling out of the race again now. I just don't know how long they can keep this up. Merzlikins saves 33 out of 36. Saros saves 40 out of 43. Your 3 stars are Forsberg, Saros, and Grimaldi. Power plays 1 for 2 for Columbus, 0 for 1 for Nashville. Shots 17-9 Nashville in the first, 20-11 Columbus in the second, 11-7 Columbus in the third, and in the overtime, 3-1 for Columbus. So they outshot Nashville 43-36, and the rule seems to be if Nashville gets outshot, they win. It's a rule that seems to work with Vancouver too, and I'll be dipped if I can figure it out. But Nashville comes through with 2 points tonight, and Columbus again with 1, and we'll see how long they can stay in the running, because it is getting tricky because they don't have the wins. So while the overtime loss points keep them in the running, they will lose out on most tiebreakers. That being said, I need to change boards. I think the thing I'm most excited about tonight is when I get to the power rankings and the fact that most of the teams in the top row lost tonight. So yeah, the feedback on that should be great. So let's talk about a couple of teams in the top row. Tampa. So we'll get into the first embarrassing result for teams in the East. So we've heard this narrative all year that teams in the West are vastly inferior to teams in the East. And teams in the West are basically garbage. Tonight it seemed like teams in the West might have taken that personally. And especially teams in the Pacific. They had a pretty good night. First with Arizona, who needed a good night. Tampa Bay looked pretty good early on, and then they score early on. It is Cirelli getting a goal from Killorn and Gauntz at 3:53. Ronta then denied Cirelli a second, and it looked like Tampa might run away with this. There was a post and out for the Bolts too, so Hedman almost got one and ends up being cleared. Vasilevsky then robbed Soderberg, but as we get towards the end of that first period, check it out. Connor Garland with his first of 2 on the night. He scores from Lyubushkin and Ekman Larson at 17:36. And a minute and 10 seconds later, Clayton Keller would get a goal from Goligoski and Stepan at 18:46. It's suddenly 2-1 for Arizona, which Tyson Nash loved. He really doesn't try to hide that he's completely and totally behind everything Arizona, which is refreshing with some of these guys. At least they will admit it. Second period, the Coyotes were getting good looks at the net, and then they got a power play out of it. Soderberg gets that power play goal from Garland and Goligoski at 5:51. So Connor Garland with an excellent night. He's really had a fantastic year. It's 3-1. But it's Tampa. Tampa's known to come back. Palat scores from Gauntz and Gord at 8:43 or 8:45. So Gauntz with 2 helpers on the night. And then Point would score from Stamkos and Kucherov at 10:11. So it's suddenly a tie game. What did Arizona do tonight that they have had trouble doing all year? Score. Answer with goals. Richardson scores from Hall at 11:04. Brad Richardson, rough first half of the season, definitely been better in the second half. Nice to see him on the scoreboard again tonight. And then the Coyotes pushed for another to the point where they actually forced a power play. And their power play was effective tonight. Third period, the Coyotes get another one. There was a sense of urgency in the Coyotes' play that I thought had been missing for about the last week. Ronta stopped Shattenkirk. It goes the other way. Keller scores from Krause at 11:51. So Clayton Keller, 2 goals in this game. Pretty good game for him as well. The Coyotes get a power play. On said power play, they score again. And it's Garland with his second of the game from Schmaltz and Hall at 14:28. So Taylor Hall with 2 assists in this game. And that pretty much made it a laugher. Now, they challenged that goal, Tampa did. And they go, nope, that counts, which means another power play. They don't score on that power play. However, Stepan would score from Garland and Keller at 18:46. And it's a rout. 7-3 in favor of the Arizona Coyotes. Yep. And this is why when I saw these scores tonight, I was like, the power rankings, this really makes them a mess. Because some of these teams have had really good runs, and tonight they just didn't show up. So, yeah. Vasilevsky, 34 saves on 41 shots. Ronta, 27 saves on 30 shots. 3 stars are Garland, Keller, and Lyubushkin. Shots were 11-10 in the first in favor of Arizona, 18-11 Arizona in the second, and then the third, 12-9 for the Coyotes. Final shots, 41-30, favor of the Coyotes. Power plays, 0-1 for Tampa Bay, and 2-5 for Arizona. So, yeah. Now, every year Boston comes into Vancouver once. And I didn't really, and I apologize, if Clayton, if you watch this, I apologize for not getting back to you. You'd offered to perhaps find me tickets for this game. And I knew that Saturday night, because there's the review, there's the power rankings, the preview, it ends up taking my night into like 3 in the morning, and it just doesn't work. And I'm really glad I didn't go, to be honest, because I would have seen what essentially was a complete slaughter, and I would have missed out on a really good story that was going on in Toronto at the same time. So this game, just slaughter. And Vancouver definitely came out tonight with a chip on their shoulder. And this is a pushback we haven't seen much from Vancouver in a long time. The Bruins started fast, and Markstrom stopped Pasternak and the Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron line, which everybody's scared of. Bergeron did not get on the board tonight. So what happens next is Stetcher scores from Mott at 4:14. Troy Stetcher had a pretty big game. And apparently the rumors that he may be on his way to town, maybe he took that seriously. Maybe he took up that mantle. This was the best game I've seen him play as a Canuck. Pasternak would score to answer it, though, from Grzelcyk at 7 minutes and 6 seconds. That's his 44th to get back the lead in the NHL. Markstrom then took a stick. I don't know if it actually got him in the eye or if it got him just above the eye, but it went through his mask into his eye. It appeared, so he couldn't get the eye watering under control. So Demko went in, and all I could think was, don't get hurt. We don't want another situation where the emergency goalie comes in. And before this game started, they even said the emergency goalie for this game is. So maybe that's going to be a thing for the next couple weeks where we wonder if an emergency goalie could be used. And I've always thought, and I'm going to say this here, I've always thought the NHL should allow a team to carry a third goaltender. Don't dress him. The only way that he ends up in the lineup is if something happens. So you could bring in like a Michael Layton. It doesn't have to be your AHL guy, but you could bring in somebody and you have your own guy. So not somebody who just might be available to one team or the other, but you have your own guy that goes with you, and if he plays, great. And otherwise, he just goes out and takes practices. Horvat would score on a power play from Miller and Toffoli at 11 minutes and 8 seconds. And Toffoli, he had a pretty good game too. The Bruins get a power play. That didn't work. And then the Canucks get their turn, and that didn't work. Second period, 5 minutes in, the shots were 5-1 for the Bruins. So they're down 2-1. They're trying to get back into it. And then Gaudette gets a goal on a beautiful play by Hughes. 5 minutes and 32 seconds, he gets the setup on that one. Quinn Hughes is rewriting the record book for Canucks defensemen, and I have a funny feeling that will continue for a long time. I have not done a Quinn Hughes video. I don't intend to. Once the season's over, we can definitely do videos where we talk about rookies and all this. I don't feel the need to necessarily do a Quinn Hughes video, but he has been quite the story. And I do think that with the way things are going right now, Hughes has probably taken the lead in the Rookie of the Year race. Rask stopped Miller. Solid play by the Canucks' fourth line in this game stood out. They didn't get on the board, but honestly, that fourth line played well. Sometimes the fourth line it's important to get the odd goal here and there. Sometimes it's just important for them to push back and just to show some fire. Vegas has had that for years with their fourth line too. Excellent home period for Vancouver, even though they were outshot. They were playing very, very well. The shots didn't tell the story in this one. Pearson would score from Eriksson and Myers at 14:48. And then less than a minute later, Eriksson gets his second point in less than a minute from Edler and Stetcher at 15:39, probably saying, hey, I used to play for these guys. I know how to score on them. So that made the score a lot to 1 in favor of Vancouver. And Chara decided, well, I've had enough of this. And he grabbed onto Myers. And I think they were going to have a fight. I don't know. It never actually reached the point where I don't think Myers threw a punch. So they end up down on the ice. Both drop their gloves, but the Canucks come out of it with a power play. They don't score on that, but you could tell Boston was getting more and more frustrated. Markstrom denied Pastrnak, and Horvat then had a scrap with Coyle. That was, I think, his second career fight, or his third career fight. And one of his other career fights was against Boston as well. So, yeah. 5-1 after 2. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't go to this game. Third period, Pettersson scored from Miller and Stetcher at 46 seconds. And they said, hey, that's Stetcher's first career 3-point game. So good on him. Pettersson gets on the board. That's the only time he gets on the board tonight, which is unusual because you think of Pettersson as being the guy that the offense rotates around. It's kind of become JT Miller. But Boston gets a power play, and they do score on it. Pastrnak scores his 45th of the year from Krug and Marchand at 6 minutes and 28 seconds. And shortly after that, actually I think it was right after that goal, they took Tuukka Rask out and put Halak in. They didn't really get into whether Rask got shaken up or if they just decided, you know what, screw it. Just we'll switch goalies because this game's done. Wagner would then score from Grzelcyk and Crowley at 8 minutes and 11 seconds. And this is where you start thinking back to Pittsburgh and you think about Washington and you think about some of the games where Vancouver's had a big lead and then it's kind of gone the other way. But tonight is not one of those nights. At 11 minutes and 10 seconds, it's Toffoli scoring from JT Miller. So for Miller, that's his third assist of the night. He's having a fantastic year. Toffoli then scored from Hughes at 13:03. So Toffoli with 2 goals and an assist. And then with less than 2 minutes left, just to really punch this in and make sure that people were drinking at home, shotgun Jake Virtanen gets his 17th of the year from Edler and Stetcher. So Virtanen looks like he's going to get 20 or more goals this season. He might push to 25. And a lot of the naysayers who haven't liked Virtanen, I haven't heard a whole lot from them lately. And I think by the end of this year, a lot of that could go away. And I think Virtanen has the capability of scoring more than this. I think there's still more offense there and more grit too. He's shown he's willing to drop the gloves if he needs to. And Vancouver won this game 9-3. The highlight too towards the end of this was the crowd chanting, "We want 10." So do not think for a minute Vancouver fans have forgotten how much they hate Boston. It's been almost 9 years since that Stanley Cup final. It has not been forgotten. And anytime I wear Boston gear in public, I am reminded that it is not considered a good idea to wear Boston gear around here. So Vancouver wins 9-3. Really proud of the game they had tonight. It is only one game. So the tricky part is not to overreact to this game and kind of puff your chest out with, that's it, we're good. This is a great game. It's a start. Rask saved 21 out of 27. Halak saved 5 out of 8. I wouldn't put it on them. Markstrom saved 34 out of 37. He has an incredible record when he faces more than 35 shots. So, okay. I think he's now 13-4 when he faces more than 35 shots. Toffoli, Stetcher, and Horvat are your 3 stars in this one. The shots, 17-12 Vancouver in the first, 12-8 Boston in the second, 13-10 Boston in the third. Final shots, 37-35 Boston, but that does not tell the story at all. Power plays 1 for 2 for Boston, 1 for 3 for Vancouver, which also doesn't tell you how this game went at all. Not even slightly, not even a little bit. Next up, Florida in against Vegas, and you'll notice that I use different numbers because I ran out of 3s. But this was really 80s level scoring tonight. This was a night where we saw a lot of goals. And this one started off looking like we might see a ton as well. And with Vegas and Florida, it's possible. Hoffman scores from Pesic and Trocheck at 3:28. And Mark Pesic's become quite the story in that he's been playing forward mostly for Florida, but he is naturally a defenseman. So it gives them some flexibility when he's on the ice. And it gives them the reality that they have 3 defensemen when he's out there and 2 forwards, which is an interesting look they can give other teams because his natural tendency is to be a defensive player. The Panthers pressured at 4.5 minutes, and it was a good start from Montembeault. And it looked like maybe Florida was ready to steal one. And then Nosek scored from Reeves and Holden at 11 minutes and 52 seconds. It was the grunts that did the work tonight for Vegas. Then they get a power play, the Vegas Golden Knights. Towards the end of that first period, Florida gets a power play. In the second period, they score 42 seconds in on the power play. Dadonov from Barkov and Yandel, so that made it 2-1 Florida. Again, it looked like Florida might pull one out here. There was another Panthers power play, and then Stevenson had a really good chance that was denied. So again, Montembeault, pretty good game for him. At the halfway mark, it's a power play for Vegas. That didn't score, but shortly thereafter, Carrier scores from Stevenson at 12:39. Vegas gets a late power play. They don't score on that, but so it says they only had 2. So there's 1 in here that must not have. Anyways, these numbers sometimes are just flat out incorrect. Pacioretty scores from Theodore at 19 minutes and 8 seconds. So Pacioretty scores in the last minute. Third period, Smith scores early. So there's a turnover right away by Florida. Stastny to Marchessault to Smith at 19 seconds. And that's where you really sense, Vegas is going to win this because it's 4-2 at that stage, right? Sorella would score from Hoffman and Dadonov at 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Later on in the period, Sorella, he collided with Marchessault. Pretty sure it was Marchessault. The Florida announcers felt it was a blindside hit. I thought it was just a collision. And I saw 2 or 3 different angles. I thought it was just a collision. I didn't think there was any penalty there for Marchessault, but clearly they felt that there should have been. There was a power play for the Panthers because of the fact that this goal was challenged by Vegas and the goal was deemed to be good. So Sorella's goal counts and they get a power play. And they did push it around the halfway mark. But again, Sorella did get hurt somewhere in around this area. They pull the goalie with 2 minutes left. Well, you know what happens here. Riley Smith gets a goal from Stastny and Nosek at 18:43, and Vegas wins this game 5-3. Once they got the lead, it was pretty clear they were going to end up winning it. It was just Florida made it interesting for the first 24 minutes approximately of this game. And then once Vegas started getting that momentum, right? Montembeault saves 34 out of 38. Again, I thought he played well. Fleury saves 32 out of 35. 3 stars, Carrier, Nosek, and Theodore. So again, it was the grunts got the work done tonight. Shots 16-10 in the first in favor of Vegas. 17-6 Vegas in the second. And then in the third, 19-6 for Florida. Final shots 39-35 in favor of the Golden Knights. Power plays 1 for 3 for Florida. 0 for 2 for Vegas. And so Florida comes up on the short end again. So for Toronto fans who are all apoplectic about their standing in life, they're still 2 points ahead of Florida. Because Florida's not winning either. One of them has to get that third place spot unless Buffalo comes up and gets it. Because right now, who knows? And yet Buffalo's a team that a few days ago went in and laid an egg against Ottawa. So I don't know who wants it. Last game of the night is Colorado in against the LA Kings. When you've got all these goals and all this excitement going on, and then you get this. And this was not an exciting game, but there was some fun to be had in this. So first period, there's a penalty shot for Wagner. He would score on it. That's at 4 minutes and 47 seconds. The Avalanche get a power play. They don't score on that. The shots were 7-3 at 11 minutes. And then clearly we needed something to liven things up. and you get Snoop Dogg in the booth. Now, I'm pretty sure I heard him curse at least once while he was in the booth, but you know what? Snoop Dogg doing color commentary is really, really fun. He gets the game. He has a lot of enthusiasm for the game. He does. He gets the game. He's not one of these celebrities that you see. I'm not going to mention where, but there are some broadcasts that I watch where they have a celebrity up in the booth, and I kind of roll my eyes and go, oh no. Because it's just yeah, they skate really fast. I didn't expect this. Yeah, no, this is fun. I get all my friends to watch it. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't care. Which record are you trying to sell today? Which movie are you trying to sell tickets to today? You guys know what I'm talking about. These guys that end up in the booth and they're wearing a jersey, they don't care. Or when they're down at the ice level and they don't care. It's just they skate really fast. Yep. It's scintillating action. But with Snoop Dogg, it's actually entertaining, and he kind of puts people to shame. And so the Avs were doubling the Kings in shots. You wouldn't have known it from the commentary. Because, yeah, Snoop is a huge Kings fan and doesn't want to hide it at all. Late power play for the Avs. We go into the second period. In between the first and second, they showed Snoop going into the locker room and reading out the starting lineup for the LA Kings. It was interesting. And he also talked about his charity work that he does for youth and for kids, getting them into sports and getting them off the streets and out of some troubled situations. So, really, he's a great guy. So, second period, quick plays by the Avs. Quick plays great versus the Avs. I'll get there. Reading my notes, I'm like, does that make... Yeah, that makes sense. Jonathan Quick loves playing against Colorado Avalanche, clearly. In the outdoor game a week ago and tonight, he was fantastic. Power play for Colorado, and the shots were 22-9 for Colorado 31 minutes into this game. But no goals, and Jonathan Quick wasn't giving them any daylight. There was a power play for Colorado, and it was kind of a slow game until Graves gets a goal on the 24th shot of the game from Landeskog and Cole at 16:35. So the Kings wearing their 90s jerseys and Jonathan Quick wearing a Kelly Rudy throwback mask. It's not quite enough. It's a 1-1 tie after 2. Third period, the shots were 2-1 for Colorado 5 minutes into the period. Again, keep in mind this is going on, and I just watched this, and this one's got 3 shots in 5 minutes. It's a little bit slow, and it wouldn't speed up for the rest of the game. And it was smothering defense by the Avs. Not that LA had slouches on the ice when it came to the defensive work, but it felt like they were going to go to overtime right from the start of the third period. I was like, this is going to overtime. This just, there's not going to be any scoring. Francouz did very well late to make sure this went to overtime. In the overtime, Compher had a shot that just missed. Francouz then denied Doughty. Drew Doughty had a good chance to end it, and Francouz stood up and made sure he didn't. There was more heroics from Quick soon after that. It's like Quick's looking down the ice and going, oh, look at this guy trying to upstage me. Well, I'll show him. 1 minute and 15 seconds left. They give the Kings a power play. And the Kings called a timeout to try to plan out their power play. Whatever they planned, it didn't end up working. So we go to a shootout, because of course we do. Donskoy would get the winner. And so Colorado gets the 2 points. LA gets 1. It's a 2-1 shootout victory for the Colorado Avalanche, who continue their upswing recently. Francouz saved 20 out of 21. Another good game for Francouz. Quick saved 31 out of 32. He was fantastic. And he was the first star. McKinnon, second star. And Donskoy, the third star. Power plays, 0 for 5 for Colorado. 0 for 2 for LA. That 0 for 5 power play for Colorado was because their best penalty killer was Quick. Shots, 15-7 in the first in favor of Colorado. 9-3 Colorado in the second. 6 shots each in the third period. And 5-2 in the overtime in favor of LA. The shots were 32-21 in favor of Colorado overall. So the Avs, they move on. Tomorrow they're playing again. And we'll see how that game goes for them as they make their way through California. But tonight, not too bad. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts regarding tonight's game and the games in the comment section below. This review took a lot longer than normal because of the emergency goalie situation in Toronto and just the sheer amount of craziness that took place in the other games tonight. But I've still got power rankings and a preview tonight before I go to bed. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Do hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.